People get uncomfortable when a truth doesn't fit the romantic stories they've been fed. And one of the most uncomfortable truths today is this. A growing number of studies, surveys, and psychological observations are quietly pointing to the same conclusion. Many men report being happier, calmer, and more mentally stable when they are single. Not lonely, not bitter, not angry, simply lighter. And that should make us pause because happiness is supposed to be the ultimate goal of relationships, not something men feel relieved from once they step out of them. From a very young age, men are taught that commitment is proof of maturity, that settling down will complete them, that love will soften their struggles. But what no one prepares them for is the emotional cost that often comes with modern relationships, the constant pressure to perform, to provide, to emotionally regulate not just themselves but another adult, to read minds, to suppress their own needs, and to keep proving their worth long after commitment has already been given. When researchers look at stress markers in men, one pattern keeps repeating: cortisol levels, anxiety symptoms, and emotional burnout tend to spike in unstable or emotionally demanding relationships. Meanwhile, men who are single, especially those who are purpose-driven, often show better sleep patterns, more consistent routines, stronger friendships, and clearer mental focus. This doesn't mean men hate relationships. It means many men are exhausted by the way relationships currently function. Modern dating culture has quietly turned relationships into performance arenas. Men are expected to lead, initiate, reassure, plan, protect, provide, and remain emotionally steady, while simultaneously being told that they are emotionally unavailable, not expressive enough, or not doing the inner work fast enough. This contradiction creates a constant sense of inadequacy. No matter how much effort a man puts in, the goalpost keeps moving. When a man is single, something interesting happens. His nervous system relaxes. He doesn't wake up wondering if he said the wrong thing last night. He doesn't spend hours replaying conversations, trying to decode mood shifts. He doesn't feel like his peace is dependent on someone else's emotional state. And peace, more than excitement, is what the male psyche craves once it matures. Studies in behavioral psychology show that men derive a strong sense of identity from autonomy. The ability to choose how they spend their time, energy, and resources directly impacts their sense of self-worth. In relationships where autonomy is subtly eroded through constant monitoring, emotional guilt, or unspoken expectations, men begin to feel trapped rather than connected. Singleness, in contrast, restores a sense of authorship over one's life. Another uncomfortable factor is emotional labor. While the term is often discussed from one side, many men experience emotional labor as a one-way drain. They are expected to absorb emotions, remain stable during conflict, and suppress frustration because men should be strong. Over time, this creates emotional numbness rather than intimacy. Being single removes that burden. Men can feel what they feel without having to package it correctly. Then there's the issue of respect. Many men don't leave relationships because of lack of love. They leave because of lack of respect. When a man feels constantly corrected, compared, or subtly diminished, his self-esteem erodes. Studies consistently show that men are far more sensitive to perceived disrespect than women are to emotional distance. Singleness protects men from environments where respect feels conditional. Single men also tend to invest more deeply in competence. They build skills, they focus on health, they pursue mastery. This aligns with male psychology, which is wired around progress and problem solving. In strained relationships, that same drive is often redirected toward fixing emotional dynamics that don't respond to logic or effort, leading to helplessness. Being single allows men to see tangible results from their energy again. There is also a myth that single men are irresponsible or immature. Data often shows the opposite. Single men who choose singleness, not those avoiding intimacy, but those opting out consciously, tend to be more disciplined. They manage their finances better, maintain hobbies, and cultivate long-term goals. Their happiness comes from alignment, not distraction. Another key factor is silence. Men process emotions differently. They need space, not constant discussion. In many relationships, silence is interpreted as withdrawal or avoidance. For men, it is often regulation. Singleness gives men access to silence without punishment, and silence for the male mind is not emptiness, it is recovery. Social expectations also play a role. Men are rarely supported when they struggle in relationships. When a woman is unhappy, society asks what went wrong. When a man is unhappy, society asks what he failed to do. This imbalance pushes men toward environments where their emotional safety isn't constantly under evaluation. Being single offers neutrality, no one grading their emotional performance. Importantly, this does not mean relationships are inherently harmful to men. It means unhealthy dynamics are. The problem is that many modern relationships prioritize emotional intensity over emotional stability. They reward drama, constant reassurance, and reactive communication, all of which drain men over time. Men thrive in relationships built on mutual respect, calm communication, and clear expectations. Unfortunately, those are becoming rarer, not because people don't want them, but because few are taught how to build them. There's also the issue of identity loss. In many relationships, men slowly shrink themselves to keep peace. They stop voicing opinions. They abandon routines. They delay goals. Over time, they don't recognize themselves. Singleness restores identity, and identity is the foundation of happiness. Studies also show that male friendships often deepen when men are single. They reconnect with brotherhood, shared purpose, and humor without emotional negotiation. These bonds provide emotional regulation in a way that is low pressure and consistent. Relationships that isolate men from these networks unintentionally increase emotional dependency, which then becomes another source of stress. Men are also biologically less rewarded by verbal emotional processing. Long, repetitive emotional discussions increase mental fatigue rather than relief. When relationships rely heavily on this mode of connection, men feel drained rather than bonded. Being single allows men to connect through action, shared experience, and progress, their natural bonding language. The truth many don't want to say out loud is this: men are not afraid of commitment. They are afraid of losing peace. They are not running from love. They are running from emotional chaos. When relationships offer stability, admiration, and trust, men flourish. When they offer constant tension, unpredictability, and criticism, men retreat, not into immaturity, but into solitude. Happiness for men is not found in constant stimulation. It is found in clarity, knowing where they stand, knowing they are respected, knowing their effort matters. Singleness provides that clarity instantly. Relationships must earn it slowly. This is why many men report being happier single, not because they don't want companionship, but because companionship has become synonymous with pressure. Until relationships return to being places of refuge rather than emotional battlegrounds, men will continue to choose peace over partnership. And perhaps the real question isn't why men are happier single, but why being in a relationship so often costs them their happiness in the first place. Men are rarely given language for this experience, so it often comes out misunderstood. When a man pulls back, he's labeled avoidant. When he asks for space, he's accused of being distant. When he chooses solitude, people assume he's broken or afraid of intimacy. But what if he's not afraid at all? What if he has simply learned, through repeated emotional cost, that his peace is fragile? and once lost, extremely hard to rebuild. Another layer rarely discussed is how modern relationships often collapse masculine polarity. Men are most fulfilled when they can move forward, lead themselves, and feel trusted in their decisions. Yet many relationships subtly replace trust with supervision. Innocent questions become interrogations. Concern turns into control. Over time, men begin to feel like their autonomy is being negotiated rather than respected. Singleness removes that tension entirely. There is also the burden of emotional unpredictability. Men thrive in environments where cause and effect are clear. Effort leads to outcome. Action leads to result. In many romantic dynamics today, emotional rules change depending on mood, stress, or unspoken expectations. What was appreciated yesterday becomes insufficient today. That instability quietly erodes motivation. Being single restores emotional consistency, and consistency is calming to the male brain. Men also experience a unique form of loneliness inside relationships that is rarely acknowledged, being physically present but emotionally unseen, being valued for what they provide rather than who they are. When appreciation becomes conditional, men withdraw internally. Singleness, even with less emotional closeness, feels more honest. There is no pretense, no performance, no silent disappointment to decode. Financial pressure plays a role as well. Many men feel their worth is directly tied to their ability to provide. In relationships, this pressure intensifies. Even when not explicitly demanded, it is often implied. Single men, by contrast, can pursue financial goals without the constant fear of falling short of someone else's expectations. That sense of self-directed progress feeds confidence and contentment. There is also the psychological relief of not being emotionally monitored. In relationships, men often feel that their tone, timing, and reactions are under constant scrutiny. A tired response becomes a sign of disinterest. Silence becomes a problem to solve. Neutrality becomes a threat. Over time, this hyper-awareness creates anxiety. Singleness removes the need to manage perception. Men also process failure differently. They prefer to retreat, recalibrate, and return stronger. Relationships often don't allow this rhythm. Vulnerability is demanded immediately. Explanations are expected before clarity forms. This clash in emotional timing leads men to feel overwhelmed rather than supported. Alone, they can process at their natural pace. Another reason single men report greater happiness is the absence of emotional guilt. Many men stay in relationships long after dissatisfaction sets in because leaving feels like moral failure. They carry guilt for wanting space, for feeling drained, for craving silence. Once single, that guilt lifts, emotional honesty returns. There is also the matter of attraction dynamics. When men feel they must constantly prove value to maintain interest, desire turns into duty. Duty drains joy. Single men no longer feel auditioned. Their self-worth stops depending on romantic validation and starts coming from internal standards. Men also rediscover physical vitality when single, better sleep, more consistent routines, less emotional rumination at night. The body responds quickly when psychological stress decreases. This reinforces the sense that single life is healthier, because in many cases it is. Importantly, men don't romanticize singleness the way culture assumes. They don't see it as endless freedom or pleasure. They see it as manageable, predictable, calm. And calm, after years of emotional turbulence, feels like happiness. The deeper issue is not that men prefer being alone. It's that many relationships no longer feel like partnerships. They feel like negotiations where one side is constantly adjusting. Until relationships begin to offer men the same emotional safety they are expected to provide, singleness will continue to feel like the safer choice. Men are not opting out of love. They are opting out of environments where love costs them their sense of self. They are choosing clarity over confusion, respect over reassurance, peace over pressure. And as long as happiness remains tied to emotional stability rather than romantic status, men will continue to report what studies are now confirming: that in the current landscape, being single often feels less like a loss and more like relief. This relief doesn't arrive suddenly, it unfolds quietly. Men notice it in the small things first: the absence of tension in the morning, the ability to make decisions without anticipating emotional fallout, the freedom to be tired without having to explain why. These moments accumulate, and over time they reshape how a man understands happiness. There is also a profound shift in self-trust. In relationships marked by constant emotional correction, men begin to doubt their instincts. They second-guess their words, their reactions, even their intentions. Singleness restores internal alignment. A man no longer needs external validation to confirm whether his feelings are reasonable. That internal coherence is deeply stabilizing. Another overlooked factor is how men experience conflict. Men tend to approach conflict as a problem to solve, not an emotional exchange to sustain. When conflicts become cyclical, the same issues resurfacing without resolution, men feel powerless. Powerlessness is one of the fastest ways to drain male happiness. Being single eliminates repeated unresolved conflict, replacing it with challenges that can actually be overcome. Men also regain control over time, which is a core component of masculine well-being. Time spent alone is not empty time for men. It is productive time, time to think, to plan, to refine. In relationships where time must constantly be negotiated, men feel fragmented. Singleness allows for immersion, and immersion leads to satisfaction. There's also the subtle erosion that comes from emotional comparison. Many men feel measured against expectations shaped by social media, past relationships, or idealized standards. When a man senses he is being compared, even silently, his motivation shifts from growth to defense. Alone, comparison fades. Progress becomes personal again. Men also experience a different relationship with responsibility when single. Responsibility chosen feels empowering. Responsibility imposed feels draining. In relationships, responsibilities often blur. What begins as shared care turns into assumed obligation. Singleness resets responsibility back to choice, and choice is energizing. Another reason men report happiness when single is the absence of emotional escalation. Small issues don't spiral into defining conversations. A bad day remains a bad day. It's not a referendum on the relationship. This emotional containment preserves mental bandwidth. Men need that bandwidth to feel alive. Single men also reconnect with physicality in healthier ways. Exercise becomes consistent. Appetite stabilizes. The body is no longer reacting to emotional stress signals. This physical regulation feeds mental clarity, reinforcing the sense that life is functioning smoothly. There is also a cognitive honesty in singleness. Men no longer need to rationalize staying in situations that don't feel right. They don't need to intellectualize emotional discomfort or convince themselves that confusion is normal. That honesty is liberating. Men also stop bargaining with themselves. In relationships that drain them, men often say, "Once this improves, I'll feel better." Singleness removes the conditional happiness loop. Well-being becomes immediate, not postponed. Another quiet benefit is the return of curiosity. Men start exploring interests without needing approval. They read, build, travel, learn. Curiosity thrives in low-pressure environments, and curiosity is a strong predictor of long-term happiness. Men also become more emotionally selective when single. Without constant exposure to emotional volatility, their tolerance for chaos decreases. This is not avoidance, it is discernment. It reshapes how they approach future relationships, raising the bar for emotional quality. Over time, single men develop a clearer understanding of what connection should feel like. Not intense, not dramatic, but steady, supportive, respectful. They no longer chase chemistry at the cost of peace. They prioritize alignment. This is why many men, after experiencing stable singleness, become less reactive to social pressure. Marriage timelines, relationship status, external expectations lose their grip. Happiness becomes internalized rather than negotiated. And in this state, men are not closed off. They are open, but no longer desperate. They are capable of love without being dependent on it. They are willing to connect, but unwilling to sacrifice their stability, which is why singleness for many men is not a phase to escape. It is a recalibration, a return to self, a necessary reset in a world where emotional noise has become constant. And until relationships evolve into spaces that protect a man's peace as much as they demand his presence, the quiet happiness of being single will continue to feel like the most rational choice. So if this reality makes people uncomfortable, maybe it's because it exposes something deeper. Happiness was never supposed to be something men recover after leaving a relationship. Love was never meant to feel like a psychological endurance test. And companionship was never meant to cost a man his clarity, his self-respect, or his nervous system. Men are not happier single because they fear commitment. They are happier single because peace has become rare, because silence feels safer than misunderstanding, because being alone no longer feels empty compared to being constantly misread, corrected, or emotionally managed. If relationships want men to return, they must stop demanding performance and start offering safety. They must replace pressure with respect, unpredictability with trust, and emotional chaos with calm. Because the truth is simple and unavoidable, men will always choose the place where they can breathe. And until love feels like home instead of responsibility, singleness will continue to feel like freedom.